Welcome back. I'm Pat, that Halloween movie collector. And on my next That 70's movie review, I'm going to be doing, you might ask why I'm doing a TV movie, but it's got sentimental reasons, just like my first one, The Warriors. If you didn't check it out, go check it out. So I'm going to be reviewing the 1973 made-for-TV horror film, Don't Be Afraid of the Dark, starring Kim Darby from our beloved Halloween franchise from Part 6, and Jim Hutton as her husband, and William Demarest. Now, there's some other people in this movie that actually are pretty cool when I did some research on their backstory, and I will get to that shortly. So basically, the movie is about a woman, Sally Farnham, who inherits this like big house, this mansion from her grandmother, who has since passed. Her and her husband move in, and they're doing some fixing up, and because he's more of a city guy, wants to sell it, move to the city, but she's convinced him, let's keep the house, let's fix it up, and let's move into it. Now, William Demarest is the handyman that's been there, and if anybody my age or older would know William Demarest as Uncle Charlie from My Three Sons, and he also starred in one of my favorite Twilight Zone episodes, What's in the Box. And of course, it seems like, especially the last two, something always goes back to the Twilight Zone for me, and Halloween, as you will all see. But that's the story of the movie. So what happens is she goes down into the basement. Not the basement, there's a downstairs room. It's like a study that it's kind of been closed off. It's very dimly lit. There's a desk down there, and she sees this beautiful fireplace, but it's all bricked up. It's all closed up. And off to the right of the fireplace, you do see a metal door, which is basically, for those that have old fireplaces know, it's a fireplace clean-out. And she's asked Mr. Harris, who's William Demarest, the handyman, why is this bolted shut and why is the fireplace bricked up? And she's like, well, that's just the way your grandfather and grandmother wanted it, so I would just leave it alone. He's very vague every time it's brought up because he knows what's going on, and you're going to find out why, but he doesn't want to say why. So she's like, well, I'd like to make this like an office. I'd love to be able to use it. It's a beautiful fireplace. Why can't we open it up? And he said, I would advise you just to leave it alone and just leave it. And he just leaves. So, of course, when he takes off, her being skeptic and a little bit nosy, decides to take a wrench and unbolt the door that is the clean out. And she looks in, and it's just this big hole inside the fireplace, and there's just nothing there. She's like, all right, whatever. So she closes it. Her husband, Alex, does come home. He comes down, and they talk about it, how she'd like to do this. And she was saying how strange Mr. Harris was acting when the fireplace was brought up. And he's like, whatever. He doesn't think anything of it. When they leave, you start hearing these creepy voices, which haunted me as a kid because I saw this probably when I was about 5 years old, back in the 70s. And you hear these creepy voices like, Sally, she set us free.
But it's been so long, so many years. When will she come and set us free? Set us free. Set us free. Patience.
So there's these demons that are living in there, these little creatures. Now she starts to hear things and see strange things within the house. Now her husband is a lawyer, and he's trying to get a partnership in this big firm. And he's actually going to San Francisco for a big meeting, but before that, they're having a big party to welcome everybody to the house, sort of show off a little bit and schmooze with the people in his firm. And during that, what happens is the creatures are out and they're loose, and she's sitting at the table and they're tugging at her napkin, and she starts to flip shit when she actually sees one of them, and then ruins the party. The husband's all pissed off. And she goes to take a shower that night. So she's in the shower, and they come in. Now, they have all these little weird passageways. So they're able to get from the basement through little doors and stuff within the house, which is kind of creepy, too. So she's in the shower. They turn the light off because they're susceptible to light. Hence, Don't Be Afraid of the Dark, title of the movie. So they don't like the light on. So you turn the light on, they scatter. So they're there, and they want to hurt her. They're talking, let's hurt her. I want to hurt her. Let's take her. And she's hearing this while she's in the shower. I mean, they're whispering, but she's hearing it plain as day. So she goes to get out. They scatter. So she turns the light on, and of course they're gone. She turns the light off, and then they start to come back. They come out of one of the little doors. She flips the switch. Light comes on, and they scream, and they run off. So now she knows something's in here, but she's trying to explain to the husband He's just thinks she's crazy, and she's imagining things, just like the story plot of most movies where this type of a situation happens. Oh, you're just imagining it. Instead of investigating it, no, you're just imagining it. But she figures, you know what, I just need to get the hell out of here. So she tells him, who had wanted to sell this house, I think we should just sell it. So he's happy, and then, of course, they go off to bed. She's afraid to sleep, so she sleeps in a chair, and she's keeping an eye out because she's still hearing them. Next day, wakes up. Of course, he goes off on his business trip. She's home alone, and they start their shit again. Yeah. Well, for Mr. Harris, you know, he does come, and he has words with Alex, the husband, because he's like, you're filling her head with all this shit, and she's all freaking out, and he says, you know what, I don't need this shit. I'll come and get my tools, find another handyman, because he just wants to get the hell away from it. So he shows up right before Alex leaves to say, I'm coming to get my tools, and they sort of reconcile, and he's like, I apologize for losing my temper, and he's like, yeah, I guess we both kind of did, and you know, and of course, he brings up the whole situation with the wife, and he's like, just leave that alone. And of course, they sort of get a little agitated. He does ask him to come back and be the handyman and do some work, which he does not want to do. He said, no, I think you should find somebody else. So he goes down and finds the creatures are loose again. The day before, he had put those bolts back on, and then she took them back off again. People just don't listen in these movies. But that's the whole story of horror movies. They don't listen. You can yell at the screen all you want, and they don't listen. So he goes down, and they turn the light off, and they say, you told them, because he knows the story, and they know that he knows what's going on. So he say, no, I didn't tell him. I swear I didn't say anything. So they actually come after him, and they cut him. They shut the door and lock it. They cut him with one of his screwdrivers. He's banging on the door. Alex opens the door, and he runs out. So he gets the hell out. He just gets the hell out of Dodge, which don't blame him. So now she's home alone, and she does go out with her friend, and she's explained to her friend, and her friend, you know, is a little skeptical, thinks it's in her head, and she says, well, can I stay with you? Because I'm a little scared. So she says, of course you can. So she comes to the house, and then she's going to get all her shit to leave. Now all sorts of shit happens. Right before the friend comes over, the interior decorator comes. There's this guy who is helping them redecorate the whole house. And once he finds out that they're selling, he gets all pissed off, and he's going to take off. And so while she's there, and it's just him and her in the house, they put out a tripwire, trip him. He falls down the steps and gets killed. And she's sitting there trying to grab the cord, and she's like, what do you want? And they're telling her, we want you, we want you, we want you to join us. And so she's pulling the cord. She's got these big rope burns on her hands. So, of course, she calls the police, because now this poor decorator just fell to his death. That's when a friend does come over. They do reach out to Alex, so he rushes. He's on his way home from San Francisco, so she's staying there. The doctor has prescribed here some sleeping pills for her. Let her just rest, and she's like, "No, I don't want to take anything. I just want to get the hell out of here." So she's like, "Here, just drink this coffee, and I'll go make some calls, and we'll figure this out." Her friend Joan's making calls while she's laying there. Unbeknownst, one of the creatures must have took which was done off camera, you don't see this, to sleeping pills, 2 of the sleeping pills, put them in the coffee. So she's drinking the coffee now. Of course, now she's out of it. She's all loopy. She's laying down. And so Alex does show up. She's telling him the whole thing. Of course, she's still skeptical, but she's saying, no, look at her hands. He sees the rope marks. And now he's starting to think, all right, you know what? Maybe I should investigate this. He's finally starting to realize this. So first thing he does is call Mr. Harris, goes over to Mr. Harris's house, and he tells him the whole story. Finally lets it all out. This is what's been going on. So he comes back with Alex. So they're on their way. While they're on their way, the creatures go and they cut the power. So naturally, Joan goes off to try to figure out why the power's out. She goes outside, sees the lines cut, but they locked her out of the house. Now she can't get back in. So while Sally's all loopy, they go and they grab her. They tie her by a rope around her feet, and they're starting to drag her, because they're going to drag her into that fireplace, because that's where they live, and they want her to become one of them. So they're dragging her through the house, and she's like, no, but she's so loopy from these pills, and they're grabbing. So she finds a camera, so she starts snapping pictures, like the old style camera with the flash bulbs that spin on the top, because there's light. They try to stop them, but it only deters them for a second, and they keep pulling her. So it ends with them pulling her into that clean out. Now she's become one of them, and they finally get into the house, Mr. Harris, Joan, and Alex, the husband, because they break the window and they finally get in, but it's too late. And now he realizes everything that was happening came true, and he's shining the light, and he just drops it because now he realizes she's gone. So now it plays out, fade out from the house, and you can hear her talking to them because now she's one of them, saying, "Who's going to set us free?" And she's saying, "Don't worry, somebody else will set us free. They'll come," and it just fades out. Now this movie, albeit pretty tame, it is a made-for-TV movie. It's a 1973 movie, so of course it's not going to be, amped up, especially for television for back in the day, or even horror films for back in the day. But I watched this as a kid. I was about 5 years old, and that's the reason I'm telling you. That's the reason I'm doing this review, because it was the first horror movie I ever saw. And at 5-year-old me, watching it in the dark in my parents' house, scared the shit out of me. I had nightmares about this movie. And I do remember the angle from my bedroom. I shared a bedroom with my brother, my older brother. And if you looked out the door, my mother had like a statue of Mary and holding the baby Jesus. And for some reason it was green. It was like a green wall plate. And it used to hang. And the way it was shaped oval, and it was green up on that wall at night, the way little bit of light that you'd see from our bathroom looked just like the heads of these creepy little freaking creatures. It just scared the shit out of me every night. So yeah, so that is the reason why I chose to do this movie. I'm like, yeah, let me do Don't Be Afraid of the Dark. Maybe a lot of people haven't even heard about it. I mean, it does have a lot of, if you do some research on it. All right, so Kim Darby is Sally Farnham. We all know her, especially if those Halloween. I mean, she's been in a lot of stuff, don't get me wrong. Way back to True Grit with John Wayne. Of course, we all know her if you're a Halloween fan like myself, or a horror fan, as Deborah Myers in Halloween 6. So you do remember that. I loved her as Lane Myers' mom in Better Off Dead with John Cusack. If you haven't seen Better Off Dead, go see Better Off Dead. I'm probably going to do an 80s movie review thing as well, and that's definitely on the list. I love that movie. And her husband, Jim Hutton, if you look at him, you might not think, maybe this guy was a TV actor. No, he did die very young of liver cancer back in 1979. But he was in one of my favorite episodes, another Twilight Zone episode, and When the Sky Was Open. Great episode where he plays an astronaut. They go off to space, they come back, and they tend to disappear because they weren't really supposed to come back. But go watch my Twilight Zone rankings. I don't believe it's on there. It might be on there. There's so many Twilight Zone episodes that I love. So, but that's something different. Go check it out. But he was also the father of Timothy Hutton. If you guys know who Timothy Hutton, the actor, is, this was his father. And you never put 2 and 2 together because the poor guy died so young, 45 years old, from liver cancer. So he's been dead for so long. But yeah, this was Timothy Hutton's father. And I've already mentioned Mr. Harris, William Demarest. If those older folks like myself probably grew up watching My Three Sons, and he was Uncle Charlie. And also the 3 creatures. Now there's 3 creatures with these greenish oval heads, and they're all in black bodysuits. So they're the ones that are moving around, and they're the ones that are trying to abduct Sally. So I did not know about this until I did a little bit of research before I did the review. So one of the small actors was Felix Sela, who, when I did my research, found out was the original Cousin It from the Addams Family, because obviously these are short actors. They're meant to be small little creatures. Twiki from Buck Rogers, one of the Ewoks in Star Wars, I believe it was Return of the Jedi, and one of the not-so-great sequels, because I love the original Meatballs movie, but Meatballs with the alien, the meathead alien, just not a great sequel, but that was also him, Meathead. One of the other short actors, Patty Maloney, was a lot of different things there, but a lot of things that you may or may not know. One of the things that stood out to me was I'm a big Married with Children fan, and if those have grew up watching Al Bundy, the episode where the aliens come and all they want, and at night they keep abducting his sweaty, smelly socks. He'd leave his socks, and every night they kept disappearing. So finally he was trying to catch them on camera, and they were the short little aliens, almost like these little creatures that you see in this movie. And she played one of the aliens that were was abducting his socks. And the third one, Tamara D. Trudeau, I think that's how you pronounce it. So it sounds like a French name, was E.T. Played the inside the suit of E.T. and in the Ghoulies horror films. So it was kind of cool when I did a little bit of a backstory and read up on some of these characters. I was like, wow, that was pretty darn cool. I didn't know. You never would have thought that. A small little made-for-TV horror film from 1973 where these people had a pretty interesting backstory of these actors and actresses. And the woman, Joan, whose name has escaped me, her friend in the movie, when I did look her up, and I don't remember her name, she was in a lot of TV shows too. For a character actor that went on to do a lot of things, and I believe some soap operas as well. But this is a great movie. It's a quick watch. It's only an hour and 15 minutes. Because remember, it's got to fill up a 2-hour slot on TV. And back in those days, you think not a lot of people even watch regular TV these days. Everybody streams stuff. But back in the days, if you watched the movie, it was loaded with commercials. So if you wonder why it's only an hour and 15 minutes, because they loaded the shit out of it with commercials and bumpers for other stuff. And it's a quick watch. It's an interesting watch, and it's got some creepy moments as well acted. The creatures are cool as hell. They're kind of cheesy, but they're cool as hell. You see them, and the way they film this, it was great because they're such small people. So they made sure that they looked even smaller by having bigger things behind them. Like there's a scene where they're hiding behind a bunch of like encyclopedias, and you can tell they're giant. It's a giant prop. Just cool stuff. Their voices were creepy. That's what used to scare me the most. And there's one or two nice little jump scares. Of course, there's no blood and guts in this because it's a made-for-TV movie, and it's also 1973. I would say if you got an hour and a half to spare, now the thing to watch it, I know when I looked on YouTube, you could rent it for like $2.99 to watch. I found it for a free streaming thing of it somewhere. I forget where it was, and because I don't own it on DVD. It is on DVD. Because I just wanted to rewatch it again. Because I watched it. I think I watched it a couple of months back when I found it. I'd say go watch it. In my book, with this, I'm giving smiley faces, 1 through 5 or less if the movie's really bad. And with this, I'd give this one 3.5 smiley faces. 3.5 have a nice days. And there you have it. That is my review of Don't Be Afraid of the Dark from 1973. Go check it out. It's a fun watch. Let me know if you liked it, if you didn't like it. Make sure you comment below. All the links to my podcast, that horror movie podcast, we do every Sunday night. That live movie watch along, we do every Tuesday night. All the links are in the description of this video. Make sure you like this video. Helps people find this channel. And come back. We'll be doing some more 70s reviews. I'm going to be doing some 80s reviews, some 90s, probably some 60s. I'm a decade guy. The older I'm getting, the more I get nostalgic for all these older movies and the decades. But make sure you like and subscribe to the channel. Helps a brother out. Don't cost nothing. And I hope you enjoy this. Go back and check my first review of The Warriors. I'm probably going to do a new one probably drop it and upload it every Friday. If there's a movie you'd like to see a review on from the 70s, by all means, let me know. Comments are appreciated. I always answer them. And I enjoy hearing from people. And hopefully you enjoyed this. So until next time, I'll talk to you soon.